Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's MacklinGaming, and I'm a little late on this video, but last week, Xbox did their developer direct, their annual little showcase, which has been happening, I feel like, for the last 3 or 4 years, you know, ever since they shadow dropped Hi-Fi Rush, which was the first time I feel like they did this direct in the format that it's in now, but they keep improving it every year, and I think this year was their best rendition. You know, it's not the same as a Sony State of Play because they really only show like 4 games and they focus intimately on these 4 games and they go deep for like 10 to 15 minutes, showing interviews with the developers, and the developers talk about the game pretty in depth. And it lasted like 45 minutes to an hour, but they only showed 4 games. And we're gonna go over those games and we're gonna talk about what is Xbox's plan for this year and the future. Because it seems like to me, although these directs are going really well for them and they finally have all these really good games that are going to come out in the next year or two, it feels like they don't know what their plan is for the future and they keep changing it. Like every year, they're just kind of making it up as they go. So we'll talk about that. So we're going to go over these games and talk about Xbox's plan for the future if they have one. Let's get into it. So the first game they showed off was Ninja Gaiden 4, which was awesome. There was like rumors and mumblings of Ninja Gaiden returning. So here we have Platinum Games, who made like Astral Chain and I believe like Bayonetta, and they're teaming up with Team Ninja, who made the old Ninja Gaiden games. And this is one of the first times I've ever seen like 2 big time development companies co-developing a game, and they were both interviewed about it, and it looks so sick and like edgy and like a futuristic kind of like cyber Ninja Gaiden game. So I'm actually really looking forward to that. I've never played the previous Ninja Gaiden games, but like when I think about it, I haven't seen like 2 development companies co-develop a game like as big as these 2 companies are. You know, there's like been times where developers have made a game and then another development team comes in to help like polish it up, but they don't really get too much credit for it. It's not like well known. It's not like both of the development teams are slapped right on the cover of the game. You know, for example, Tears of the Kingdom was developed by Nintendo's like S-tier studio, who's been making Breath of the Wild, and then they made Tears of the Kingdom. And then it was known that Monolith Soft, who made Xenoblade Chronicles, came in to help polish the game up and have it run in this massive open world at like a pretty stable, you know, performance and frame rate, because they made Xenoblade 3 and they are really good at making like a huge open world game on the Switch, which has like very dated hardware. So I don't see Monolith Soft's name anywhere on Tears of the Kingdom's like credit list or anything. Maybe they're there, but it's like very subtle, right? So with Ninja Gaiden 4, you've got 2 teams that are like blatantly out there, like we're co-developing this game, and that's really exciting. I think the game looks sick, so I'm actually really looking forward to that. And they said it's coming out this year, so this year is getting more packed with games here. But it had something at the end of it, and I'm going to talk about this with like all of these other games. I don't know if all 4 of these had it, but definitely the 2 biggest games at this direct had this little announcement that they kept very subtle, but it was there. And we're going to get to that after I talk about the last game. So next they went on to show South of Midnight, which is this cool looking action game that seems to have a pretty heavy focus on its story and its setting, which is the deep South, like Louisiana area, swampy, and there's a bunch of like folklore about the South. But one thing I could not stand about this game is the stop motion animation that they're going for. They put like a whole filter on the game, or it's built right into the gameplay, where every character looks like they're moving at 10 FPS. Like, it looks crazy. I know what they're going for, like an old Tim Burton style movie that has like the stop motion animation, but I really feel like in video games, that's not gonna work out. At least for me, in my eyes, just watching the trailer, it hurt my eyes to like follow these characters and watch the animations. But I heard that the developers said there's gonna be a setting in the game where you can turn off the stop motion animation, which is really a good idea. I'm glad they did that, so I think a lot more people will enjoy this game without the stop motion animation. Maybe it won't bother a lot of you, but for me, I would have to play that game with stop motion turned off. So it's very good that the developers have a setting for that, even though they really focused on it. I thought it was going to be like unavoidable, but very good for them to add that setting in. And this game looks pretty cool. So that's South of Midnight. Next up, there's this new game from a brand new studio in France, pretty small studio, and it's called Expedition 33. It has another like little subtitle there, but Expedition 33 looks really interesting, like a very unique setting, it's like half fantasy, half futuristic, and it has turn-based combat, which looks to be like very modernized, like, you know, the newest kind of Atlas games. Definitely taking inspiration from classic Final Fantasy games, but you have like a modern take on turn-based combat, like a Persona or a Metaphor type combat style. So that was really cool. It looked interesting. I might check that out when it comes out. They said at first it was like very difficult the way they set the combat up, so they had to scale it back. I wonder if this will be like a Dark Souls of turn-based combat. I think it'll be a little bit easier and more forgiving than that. But the setting looks very unique and very interesting. Great looking graphics. So that's an interesting game that might be on my radar in the future. But lastly, they showed Doom: The Dark Ages. And this is like their big release for the first half of the year, so they put it last in the direct. And damn, it looks so good. It looks like a fantasy-based Doom game where, you know, they talked very specifically about how you're not going to be jumping around and running and gunning as much. It's going to be very grounded, and you're going to have this big old saw shield. I forgot exactly what they called it, but yeah, it's just like a shield with a saw around it, and you can throw it, you can deflect bullets coming at you with it. There's like a bunch of different uses you get out of this shield. And then of course they made some really crazy guns like based off torture devices. It looks just like Doom, but in a fantasy setting. Some of the same returning enemies seem to be there, and it's a prequel to the other Doom game. It's a prequel to Doom 2016, you know, and then Eternals like after that. So this game looks crazy. I'm actually down for a little bit of a slower paced Doom in terms of your mobility, because like it almost made me like ill to play Doom Eternal. You're just running and gunning and jumping around, and it's so fast. It's like there's no time to think, but you have to focus the whole time. It's a great game, but I'm ready for this like slower, more brutal Doom game. And at the end of this game comes to my point of this video here. They show the release date and what platforms it's coming out on, and it's coming out on PS5. And they didn't even like mention this. They just dropped it right there. You know, Xbox, Game Pass, PS5. And I believe Ninja Gaiden 4 is also coming out on PS5. So you've got Indiana Jones, which they released a couple months ago on PS5, coming up soon this spring. It looks like they're just starting to put all their games on PS5. And Phil Spencer did a recent interview like a couple days ago, and he said, you know, there's no future for us keeping our games exclusive. You know, it's much better for Xbox as a whole to have our games on these other consoles. And that is like completely different from what their game plan was a couple of years ago, where, you know, they bought up Bethesda and they bought up Activision Blizzard, and they're like, Xbox has got these strong exclusive games, you know, but I think over the last few years when they're putting out the games, they're not getting sales because they have Game Pass. These games go to Game Pass. Nobody really buys them. And now they're like, you know, all these companies, they had to shut down the Hi-Fi Rush company, which was like an amazing game they put out. And luckily that company got salvaged and they got saved by PUBG's publishers. So they're still going, they're still going to make another game. But Xbox just like didn't have a good game plan with balancing Game Pass with their exclusive development teams and their exclusive games. So now they're just becoming the world's biggest game publisher. They're going to put all their games, it seems like, on PlayStation. And you know that they're going to be ready to put some games on Nintendo Switch too. Like Bethesda loved the Switch. So I feel like they're going to put Starfield on the Switch too. So it's kind of crazy. Like, what is Xbox doing? I think they're just making things up as they go. So really, like, Xbox could have had the biggest year. They seem to have the most exclusive games here, but they're no longer exclusive. Like, I haven't heard much at all from Sony for 2025. Like, what are they putting out? Ghost of Yotei, I believe. So that's like it. But man, Xbox, this could have been the year of Xbox, except that it's going to PlayStation as well, all these games. So what do you guys think about Xbox's game plan? Do you think they even have one? Do you like that these games are going to all platforms? Because if you ask me personally, I do like that they're making this decision. I like that Doom, The Dark Ages is gonna be on PS5, and I'm excited to play these Xbox games on a PS5. Like, I'll pick up Indiana Jones when it comes out to get the physical copy. I love that game. So really, for me personally, I enjoy this decision, but it just, if you're an Xbox fan, it seems kind of like they've given up on their exclusive games and they're turning into something different, you know, like a publisher. So what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like on the video and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.